kind of goes to a lot of different questions. If you're in a rural area, so if you're 80 miles away from, let's say, Chicago, but you're in this rural area, well, there's only about 15,000 people or 20,000 people to compare your rates for, depending on your radius. You know, you'll never pull people in from the big city to want to work here unless you can pay what the big city pays. In a small farm town, $25 an hour feels like a lot of money for a qualified person. They're people that have learned on the fly and gotten really good just because they've been doing it for 20 years. Or you've got the young guys that are apprentices that are learning from these guys, but they're still getting that anecdotal, tribal kind of knowledge and not any formal schooling. They got whatever they got in high school and maybe a year in college, but hands on application to the theory they don't have. Now, if I want to attract that talent, I have to go to out towards the bigger cities, but you get this inequality in wage. And I find a lot of times that when you're kind of trying to hire and you're justifying your rate going, well, it's great for this area. It is, but it's not high enough to draw people away from good paying jobs that are making that much or slightly more. You kind of have to attract them. And I'm a big proponent of paying people what they're worth and having a structured pay scale. I've also seen it where we've seen some companies that will take and literally contract out the entire department, or even bring in, if you're closer to the border, bring in seasonal work. There's people they can bring across the borders that will work part-time, work seasonally, and then go back when they don't need them because it's a rush. By and large, you have to pay what the market demands to pull people out of jobs, because with the amount of people there are in the workforce these days, especially in the technical group, that craftsman group, they're very few and far between, very few. It's like saying I want a brain surgeon that specializes in the frontal lobe and I'm trying to pay what general practitioners make. Well, those surgeons are not going to come for that job. So you got to pay them what they're making at least, and then make the environment they're coming to as attractive or better to make them want to leave a good paying job. Because if you got people that are out of work and they're saying okay to the amount of money that you're offering, you got to ask yourself why these days. Used to be it was just somebody changed their mind, or they were coming back to work after being off for a few years, or they were sick, or there's a whole bunch of reasons or causes. But today, in today's market, you're not finding that anywhere near as much as you used to. So if these guys are if these types of people are out of work right now, you got to wonder why. And then he goes back to qualification. They interview well, they have a great resume, but they come in, it's time to actually put hands on things. All of a sudden now you get buyer's remorse because I paid this guy so much and he can't really do the job. Compensation's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I think some of these models, they look, these regional evaluations are flawed. I think their radiuses are probably too tight. And then I think there's interpretation of what the range really is based on how complex you think your plant is versus the plant they're coming from. And I hear that being used as a cause for not paying somebody a good wage. Well, they were working for Tesla. They're so high end and technical. Those guys need $55 an hour. We're just a small podunk food plant, and all these machines don't have drives or anything on them. We shouldn't have to pay more than $28 an hour. And you go, well, you know what? That may be the case, but the person with the skill set you're looking for is there. How are you going to get them to leave their job to come work? So it becomes more intrinsic than it does extrinsic when you have that conversation.